Hey guys, welcome to Searing. This is Chef Austin again. We are going to be making a kind of a springtime braised lamb shank. It's going to have an herb crust on it, little parsnip puree, and a mint and spring pea shallot kind of warm salad. But let's kind of hit it, right? So first and foremost, we have these wonderful lamb shanks here. What we've done to these is trim off the trotter and then tied that together so they stay nice. So we have two of these here. But let's get started on the herb crust. So 2 parts parsley to 1 part mint. And we're basically just gonna mince all of this up. Now we're gonna save some of this for later. So this is about a cup of parsley leaves, about half a cup. But for this, you're just kind of looking for a rough chop. Doesn't have to be too fine. Into the bowl. To this, we're also going to add 3 cloves of crushed garlic. And the zest of 1 lemon. So we're just going to mix that up and kind of get that incorporated all the way through. And then we're going to take our lamb shanks here, a little bit of olive oil, give them a nice generous seasoning, and then we're going to press these in our nice herb crust mixture. So we have those prepped now. Now over here, we're gonna take our carbon steel pan. You can use cast iron, you can use any pan. I prefer carbon steel or cast iron just because they are going to really hold that heat. And we are going to give our lamb a nice sear on both sides, just about a minute. Now, while that is going, we're gonna start on our parsnip puree. So over here, all I have is just a steam basket, a little bit of water, and earlier I've just peeled and cut some parsnips, kept them in water just so they don't turn color on me. I want to keep them as white as possible for presentation purposes. We're gonna let those steam. Flip our lamb nice and golden brown. While that's going as well, we can start on our English peas. So these are English peas. I have already shelled them, and we just have some boiling salted water here. And we're gonna get those blanching. Those are just gonna blanch for just a couple minutes, and then we're gonna drain them and put them in an ice bath in a separate pot. We're going to take these out. And place them in. The reason why we do this in a separate pot, if you look at this pan, you're going to have a bit of scorched garlic, herbs, things like that. So we want to take that away, and it's going to make for a little bit of a cleaner sauce later. Then we have this wonderful, rich beef stock that we've made in-house. Has some great gelatin in there. And then we're also going to be putting our wine that we're pairing with this. So this is our Quartet. Absolutely fantastic. I actually we were doing some research for a pickup party yesterday. So I had the chance to try this again. And it's super delicious. It's going to be great with kind of this lighter style braised lamb. Bunch of red fruit, super fruit forward. Very easy drinking. It's drinking amazing right now. We're going to put just about half a cup to 3/4 of a cup. Put a lid on it. And then you're going to put it in a 350-degree oven for just about 2 hours. Now, at the hour and a half, hour 45-minute mark, I would go check on that, because in this dish, we're not looking for something that's going to be falling apart. We want it to be soft and fully cooked, but also kind of eat more. The goal is to have it almost eat more like a steak, have it be a little bit steaky, because we want it to kind of keep together and stay on that bone. You got to try what you're cooking with, as they say. Yeah, super great tannin, really easy drinking, nice fruit, nice red fruit. I'd even go somewhere along the lines of blueberries, not really blackberries, but really, really nice. So our peas are just about done. You can see they kind of start to wrinkle. The skins on them just barely start to wrinkle. So we're gonna take these, and then these are gonna go cool down in some ice water, just to shock them and kind of lock in that green color. All of these things can be done beforehand. So obviously you want your lamb to start 2 hours before you're ready to eat, right? But your peas, you can also blanch and shock them and get them ready for quote-unquote service, right? So we're gonna blanch and shock those, and then on pickup, we're going to saute them with our roasted shallots that we have, and then finish with a little bit of mint and just a splash of wine to kind of heat everything back up. And same with the parsnip puree. Again, you can do this ahead of time and cool it down, and then reheat it and have it ready. So while all this is going, these are going to take a few minutes. We are going to get started on our crust. So I know that we did the kind of the herb crust already, but I want to add a little bit more texture to this dish. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the rest of our parsley here and thyme, and we're going to give this a nice fine mince. Try to get all of your leaves nice and tight, and then on your first pass with your knife, go as thin as possible and do what's called a chiffonade cut. Super, super thin. And then we're just gonna go through and mince these up. Herbs in the bowl. Again, some lemon zest. So what we're gonna change up here is the addition of some toasted breadcrumbs. So again, carbon steel pan, heats up super, super fast. Breadcrumbs in. And you're really gonna wanna keep this moving. Now to this, we're gonna add a good pinch of salt and black pepper. It goes pretty quick, you can't really walk away from this one. Already starting to pick up that kind of toasted breadcrumb. All right, and that's about to where I want that. Pan is still hot, right? So it's gonna keep toasting. So we're gonna get this out of the pan into a bowl, and we're gonna let this just kind of cool down for a minute. If we put our herbs in now, they're gonna go brown on us because they're gonna cook. So we wanna just kind of let that cool down, just slightly warm, if not room temperature. But you know, no rush, because we gotta wait for that lamb, right? Something else that I've done ahead of time. So when that lamb comes out, I have added some of our wine. We've cooked the alcohol off and added it to some whole grain mustard. And we are going to paint this onto our lamb and then roll it in our herb breadcrumbs. It's gonna be absolutely phenomenal, and that the lemon as well as that mustard flavor, it's gonna bring some brightness to the lamb, which can be very, very rich, especially being a shank, right? And then the herbs are gonna bring some really nice freshness. Should be wonderful. Okay, so our parsnips are almost finished cooking. Our breadcrumbs have cooled down a bit. So we're gonna add everything together now. Before we had done 3 cloves of garlic. It's gonna get cooked, so kind of that flavor is gonna mellow out, especially in the beef stock and everything like that. So to this, we're just going to add one clove crushed garlic. our herbs and our lemon zest. This is all, remember, this has already had salt and pepper added to it. And then what we're gonna do is kind of work this with our hands. And then last thing I like to do is just add a touch of olive oil, maybe half a tablespoon to a tablespoon. Just to turn this almost into a damp sand consistency. Put that into a vessel that makes it a little bit easier for our our breading process. So these are finished. I'm gonna take these and go straight into our blender. A good pinch of kosher salt. What we're not gonna add, what I don't like adding, is black pepper. I think white sauces, you should never add black pepper. If you do want to add pepper, add white pepper. But you know, who wants little black specks in their sauce, in their nice white sauce, right? So, salt, margarine, a little bit of oat milk. A little bit more runny than like mashed potatoes, right? So just a nice puree. Our lamb is probably about done at this point. We'll take this guy out of here. So yeah, still holding together, not completely falling apart. Now we're gonna take our braising liquid into a pot with a strainer. Remember, that handle's hot. We're gonna put this guy on high and reduce that just to a nice kind of sauce consistency. Pan, high heat. Now we're gonna do our peas. So I've already drained the peas here. Nice and al dente. And one thing we haven't shown you is these shallots. Now all I did to these shallots beforehand is I took whole shallots, just a little bit of oil, salt and pepper, and put them in the oven until the outside portion of the skin was nice and dark. And then what we did is just peeled that off, and underneath you just have these super soft, cooked through shallots, really, really nice. Kind of concentrates those flavors, right? So in here, a very small, maybe a teaspoon of oil. You don't need much. We really want to almost blister these peas, and the only way that we're going to be able to do that is get this pan super, super hot. We want that oil to be smoking. It's going to be so hot, right? And then on deck, we also have a bit of our wine. Off the flame, we're going to add our peas. So our peas and our shallots go right in. Now these shallots, all I did again was roasted them in the oven, let them cool down, took off that outside skin, and then cut them in half lengthwise. So when they break apart, when they heat up and break apart, they'll kind of just be these nice little petals that come throughout your little side dish here. Some salt, some black pepper. Let that wine fully cook off. And you see those shallots kind of pick up that color of the wine and become more of a deep red. Alright, wine's cooked off. Last thing that we're gonna add, just some whole sprigs of mint. And just give that a nice little toss. Now if you want to, you can take these off the stem. I kind of like the rustic look. Sauce. So, when you do this a lot, you can kind of tell the thickness of something by the way that it bubbles when it boils. And this is kind of what I'm looking for when it's boiling. So I don't know how to describe it other than it's a lot of tiny, tiny bubbles, and they're coming up very fast instead of a lot of large bubbles. And what that tells me is the sauce has reached basically the consistency that I want. First things first, we are going to take our puree here. Nice dollop of that right in the center. White puree, I like a black plate. You can use any plate you like, but I like this. And I like to do the dollop in the center here because it's going to create those walls, and when I put the lamb on and everything else, it's going to keep the sauce kind of contained in the center of the plate. Next we have our pea salad here, warm pea salad. And last thing, we're going to take our lamb shank, still hot but cooled down to the touch, right? If I can handle this. Paint it with our wine mustard. Coat it in our herb panko. If you can find them, super delicious and super seasonal. We just have to kind of tie in those peas. We have some really nice fresh pea shoots that we're just gonna put right on top there. All right, so time to dig in, but right before you eat, we're gonna take some of our jus, our lamb jus that we made, kind of add it into that little well that we created. With all these kind of fresh flavors, with the crunch from the panko, with all the herbs, with the acidity, kind of punchiness of that mustard, it really does kind of elevate this to a more just a lighter dish, including, you know, and that punchiness of the mustard kind of gets counterbalanced by the sweetness in the parsnips and the peas. Yeah, believe it or not, the mint actually plays really well with that wine. I really enjoy it. Anyways, thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again soon, and I hope you all enjoy the dish.